We had one instance where it was a condo and it was tenanted. They were paying below market rent.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go. So we ended up paying them 10 grand. And they're like, okay, for 10 grand, we'll leave.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 346 of the Real Estate Podcast. Today is our first of two-part series on the discussion of buying and selling real estate that's tenanted. And today we're talking to the sellers. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast, your go-to source for raw, unfiltered stories and expert tips. Whether you're a buyer, seller, tenant, landlord, or realtor, join us as we dive into the world of real estate.
It says as well as that if you like the final project, you can implement it for your business as it would solve the exact problems that you would mention at no extra price to you. And I'm like, this is so I don't know. The point is there's a lot of scams right now, and people like the hooks for these scams are different. And have you noticed that?
I have one guy from the UK that is reaching out to companies to similar student. I think maybe at a college level, apparently trying to do an AI project with a business, like working with a business to show them how they can implement AI.
Right. I've seen some of those.
And I said I'd, give them a phone call or something.
Yeah.
It sounds legit, but it always ends with a sell.
All of these, and most of it is from overseas somewhere, but their subjects are even getting like much more strategic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like as easy to identify spam these days. Like if it goes through the filter and it comes into your inbox, you got to be super careful.
I think that depends on how it's being sent too. Like if it's bulk versus individual.
Right.
Anyways.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm tired today.
Yeah.
Yesterday was...
Were you out in the hot sun?
Yeah, most of the day. I was working. Oh, I'm building...
what are you building now?
I'm building a cutting board.
Adrian's always building something.
I'm just doing a small one.
Hey, okay, hang on. I'll tell you something after you're done with this story on cutting boards.
I look forward to it. I'm building and cutting a board, just a trial. So it's a small one. And then we'll see how it turns out. And then, so I'm doing it with the leftover wood that we had from the office. So I got all these scraps together. And then if it goes well, then I'll maybe try
walnut.
Yeah, I'll try to make a bigger one or two and have something kind of neat. Anyways, fun project.
While you're doing that, because you've got all the clamps and fancy tools and everything, I'll make a deal with you.
Okay.
I have 2 booze blocks. You know the booze blocks?
Yeah.
They're very expensive. I've got a big one and a medium one.
How much do they cost? For like a...
$200?
Yeah, at least now for a good size one, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyways, the big one I've had for 20 years and it's been abused, right? Like it goes into the dishwasher.
Oh, you can't do that.
Oh, I know.
It's held up.
Well, now the boards have separated in some areas.
Yeah.
So I don't use it because that's where your bacteria will sit in and it becomes harder to clean or whatever. But I'll make a deal with you. You repair the big one for me, and you can have the medium-sized one.
Okay.
As a trade-off.
Okay.
Which even the medium-sized one, that would be perfect for your kitchen.
Yeah. All right. I'll see if I can do it. I picked up some mineral oil and
I have
2 different types
too. Yeah, that's the best to keep it.
I never use it. I just have my cutting boards like a butcher block IKEA special, $20, and we've had it for probably a decade.
Is it real wood?
Yeah.
What kind of wood? An acacia or something like that?
No idea.
Yeah,
no idea. But it needs some repair.
I've been
as well.
reading a lot about cutting boards and the microplastics and all of the different types of bacteria that sit in different types of cutting boards. I actually bought one for the cottage last week at, where did I buy it? Oh, at La Rose. And it's compressed wood fibers. So instead of being wood plank, it's wood fibers and it's organic. So whatever they put in the wood fibers is natural stuff. And I don't know. It's excellent cutting board.
I think it's a lot of just marketing gimmicks.
Yeah, that's true. Everything's freaking quote unquote organic these days.
So yeah, so I spent all day in the garage yesterday and it was like 45, felt like 45 degrees. It was the hottest day. It was hotter than the hottest day last year already.
Yeah.
So last year it was like 40.
You got a fan in your garage?
No.
Ooh.
No, it was hot. Yeah, no, that was my day mostly. And just organizing the house. What about you?
I was full of appointments on the weekend.
Oh yeah, we were out 10 in the morning to that first one. And then you had some after?
Yeah. Yeah. So all of a sudden, people are talking about moving.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
It was quiet there for a little bit. We're always busy, but
there's a lot of people though that bought in like 2020, 2021 who want to move now, but feel they can't because the prices aren't where they were.
Well, the one appointment you came with me yesterday.
Yeah.
That's a 2020, 2021.
Oh, was that when they got it? I didn't look.
Yeah. Well, that's when it was built.
Yeah.
And then the other one, that was a 2021 purchase.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing. I don't know if you're finding this because there are a lot of people that bought 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Their mortgages are coming up for renewal. So that's something to consider. Mm-hmm. There was an article over the weekend or last week, I can't remember, talking about how there's a huge amount of Canadians with mortgages that are coming due at some point this year.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, their rates are jumping up. Some of them below 2%. Now they're at over 4%. So that changes things dramatically. But what I'm finding is a lot of people are not making the right decision based on their needs, more so on the fact that the valuation hasn't increased as much as that they would like. Because if we look at, I don't know if you would agree, we look at most like average homes across at least our Halton, Peel region demographics. Most homes that were purchased in 2020, 2021 are valued at very similar price range at the moment.
Yeah.
If you bought in 2022 at the peak, it's probably worth less at the moment.
Yeah. Well, there's one listing that we actually turned down not long ago. And they bought for $1,850,000, I think in 21, and they put $300,000 into it. And now I valued it around, well, you helped provide an opinion as well. We were both in the like 1.6 to 1.7 range. And then, so, we're hearing, and that particular house was somebody who's made a lot of money off of real estate, flipping houses over the last decade or so. And he's just like, I'm done with it. Like, this is crazy. Like, I think everyone always expected it to be a reliable source of revenue or a reliable investment. And it still is, but it's like any market. It's going to go up and down and it fluctuates. And you have to be mindful of that, not to get in over your head.
We've talked about this time and time again. It's no different than stocks.
Right.
Or even currency. Look at the Canadian currency.
Yeah.
It's up and down every day. You look at the crypto markets, look at Bitcoin. I mean, that's the most volatile.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have this conversation with one of our realtors that met with a potential seller last week. And I was chatting with the seller over the weekend just to touch base. And the mentality that they have is that they are going to wait until their home is worth more money.
Right.
But what a lot of people are not really grasping is if you're upgrading your home, the difference amount is actually going to end up being greater.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the scenario I like to use is if your home is worth $1 million and you paid $1 million for it 4 or 5 years ago, I understand you're going to be losing money, right? After land transfer tax, after brokerage remuneration, after lawyer compensation, all of those things. There's costs in selling. But if your home is worth $1 million and you want to upgrade, and let's say the home you want to upgrade to is 1.2 million, maybe 1.3 million, right? A $250,000 upgrade is pretty reasonable. Yeah. If the home price increases 10%, your home is now worth 1.1 million. The $1.2 million home is now 1.32 million. So instead of being a $200,000 spread, you're now $220,000 spread.
Right.
So when you're upgrading, don't look at what you paid for it. Look at the relativity in the current market.
It's hard for people to get around that.
It is. It definitely is. And I totally get it.
Yeah.
But as their professional advisors, we need to educate people on, hey, at the end of the day, if this house is not suiting your family needs and you are going to make that move at some point, do it while there is a bit of an advantage for you.
Yeah. Well, if it's just an asset class, right? So it's like, if you think of it, maybe somebody else, a homeowner may relate to stocks better, like you're saying. Like, it would be no different than selling a stock in a particular company and moving that money into a new company that maybe has become more affordable,
see a brighter future,
and you see as their potential upside as being greater than the one you're in now.
Exactly.
So you're moving your money, and I mean, obviously, affordability is an important factor.
Sure.
And a lot of people have gotten into trouble with it. And in fact, I had another client call me the other day who always bought new construction, and we would sell their house as they flipped, and now they're in a house that is they're up to their eyeballs in debt. It's unaffordable. They want to get out. It's worth a lot less than they paid for it. So
when you don't buy and sell in the same market, you're leaving yourself exposed. Even to the point where right now, if you're buying and selling in the same market, you still have exposure because there's no guarantees of when your home's going to sell and at what valuation.
Yeah. Is this what we were going to talk about today?
No. So it is a good segue, though, because we're getting a lot of investors that are looking at selling off some of not all of their real estate, but some of it.
Yeah.
It's happened over the last
many
year.
having to renew their mortgages, and
exactly.
The rent's not carrying the expenses.
Rent in pretty well the whole GTA has come down a fair bit over this year in 2025. So rents are coming down, and now if you're renewing your mortgage and the interest rate is going up, you are now bleeding a little bit more money.
Mm-hmm.
So what we were going to talk about today, which I think is an excellent topic, is how to sell your home when it's tenanted.
I was thinking of it also from the buyer's perspective.
Ooh.
Because there's a big risk.
Yeah. Why don't we do it? Why don't we talk about that in the next episode?
Okay. So from a seller's perspective, what would you say are the biggest challenges?
Well, from a seller's perspective, one of the biggest challenges, if you have a tenant in the property, is the overall appearance of the unit.
Yeah.
Whether it's and if it's a house, like a detached home, a semi-detached, a townhouse, whatever, how does the property itself look? First of all, the curb appeal, because oftentimes tenants, depending on the tenant, of course, but a lot of them don't maintain the yard. Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah, they'll cut the grass, but
They're not fertilizing. They're not pulling weeds.
Right.
And that's not to say always the case. I mean, we used to have a couple across the street from us who they were renting.
Yep.
And their home looked immaculate inside and out.
Yeah. He was a weirdo though.
But so I wouldn't, don't get offended if you're watching this and say, oh, I'm a tenant and I take pride in my house. Yeah, that's not unheard of. But on average, most tenants don't have the same degree of care, not for just even regular maintenance, but they're not as motivated or at all motivated to sell, right? Like they don't want to be uprooted. So they're not going to make it easy in many cases.
Right.
As real estate agents, it's far more challenging for us to stage if we're able to.
Yeah. Very seldomly can we stage the home properly. You know, and staging involves a lot of decluttering, depersonalization, moving furniture out, moving new furniture in, putting up artwork, rugs, linens. Like if you're a tenant and you tell me, oh, can you move out your couch so we can move a new one in, and we're going to put new bedding. So every morning, can you put the new bedding on and make sure no dishes are left in the sink. Right. Put your toothbrush and toothpaste away.
It's not happening.
No, fuck no.
Yeah.
It's not happening. And they have the right to do that. I don't blame them. If I'm a tenant, you know, I'll cooperate as much as I need to cooperate. But, you know, I'm not doing this guy any favors for selling the house that I've been living in for the last year or two. And maybe I'm paying under market rent or whatever.
Well, the good news is now is because rents have come down a fair bit.
Yeah. They might be able to get a better deal.
They might be able to get a better deal elsewhere. Yeah. Whereas before, and certainly even till today, there are still a lot of renters that are well below market value, and they definitely don't want to leave. There's many of these people are $1,000 or more below market rent. So them moving is going to cost them significantly. But many of them nowadays, the move is not as hard to swallow because they're going to be saving money. Or maybe we had one where they moved out of a townhouse into a detached for less money. Yeah. So there could be a positive outcome.
One great tip, and this was provided by a lawyer to me, is anytime you have, certainly as a realtor and as a landlord, if you have a tenant in the property and you're looking to sell the property, the first course of action should be to offer the sale of the property to the tenant.
Yeah.
So you're, instead of being combative and saying, hey, we're selling the house and now you have to put up with all of our bullshit. First you say to the tenant, listen, your landlord is in a financial position that they are going to need to sell the property. Having said that, they want to give you the first right of refusal to purchase the property.
Yeah.
And it lightens the blow a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
And makes them feel appreciated. And maybe you cut them a deal, right? Like if the home is worth 1.3, maybe they can buy it for 1.275 and make an arrangement that way. They don't have to move. You don't have to go to market, whatever. So I think that's a great idea. Oftentimes, obviously, the tenants are renting for a reason, whether they don't have the down payment, or like Grant Cardone, I was telling you about his article last week, and you've been talking about him and his plan with real estate to that you don't own where you live.
Yeah.
But own real estate that you rent out.
Well, especially if it's unaffordable.
Right.
Excuse me. Where you live or where you want to live.
Yeah.
Just rent something.
Well, I can tell you right now, your house and my house, same thing, 14 years old, with the roof, the windows, the garage doors, all of the things that need to be repaired and replaced right now. I'm like, well, it'd be nice to be a tenant where I'm not responsible for those things.
Oh, for sure.
Actually, before we get in, so the topic next week will be
from a buyer's perspective.
So how to take advantage?
No.
Or what you should be aware of.
Well, I think the risks and how to protect yourself as a buyer.
Quiet on set.
Especially in Ontario, where landlords are not favored as far as the Residential Tenancy Act is concerned.
All right, so we'll talk about all that stuff in the next episode.
But I think for sellers, first of all, in Ontario, many people may not be aware of this, but you cannot evict your tenant in order to sell.
Right.
The tenant is allowed to be there through the whole process.
Right.
In fact, you cannot evict the tenant. I mean, you can't evict the tenant, period. If they want to contest it, they can as well. And that could be drawn on for months. But you cannot issue an eviction notice until the house is sold, and only if the buyer intends to occupy it themselves or by somebody who qualifies
immediate family
as a person who you can evict a tenant for that purpose, which is a limited number of people. It's not even all family members. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but only then can you evict a tenant.
Right.
But we've had a lot of success where, for most people, most tenants who are cooperative and reasonable and understanding of the need to sell the house for whatever reason, they're usually quite cooperative, and sometimes cooperative, and our approach has always been one where, we lay it out for them and say, listen, homeowner needs to sell for whatever reason. The likely buyer is not going to be an investor. It just doesn't make sense in this market, really. They're probably not going to be renting it out. So they will most likely be an end user and want to move in and live here with their family, which means they are in their right to evict you. So you'll be moving anyways. So, would you be open to the idea of moving a little bit earlier? Perhaps we can even help you find something. In fact, the rents are down right now, so you may be coming out ahead. And just seeing if they'll willingly leave. And we've had some success with that. Many of them know their rights, and they'll always want, of course, they're due the 1 month's rent. The landlord has to provide 1 month's rent for evicting them. But many of them will try to get more. But anyways, we've had success with that. And once the house is vacant, then we can come in and do our job much, much more effectively by being able to stage it. Tenants aren't usually as accommodating with showings. So you're going to get more people through the door much more easily, and you'll have a better outcome.
Yeah, we had one instance where not that long ago, maybe a year and a bit ago, it was a condo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tenanted. Tenants were paying.
We got this music going.
I was just gonna say
this is a good tune.
Yeah. Well, Robbie didn't pick up on it, so it must not be coming through the mics.
I imagine not.
I like those new Sonos speakers.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they sound great. They've done some nice improvements. They were paying below market rent.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go, so we ended up paying them $10,000. And they're like, okay, for $10,000, we'll leave.
Yeah. Well, we had another one recently.
And
same thing.
What I said to the landlord, and I know it to be true because I had visited that property a number of times leading up to this conversation. It was clean-ish, clean enough that you're not complaining as a landlord, but not clean enough as a buyer that you don't see that it's not, sparkling.
Yeah.
Right? Because there is a difference. And their furniture was a little bit like hand-me-down-ish and mix-mash. And they had a newborn, like 6-month-old.
Yeah, so that's asking a lot of somebody who's
not
motivated
what happens
cooperate.
if now they get a showing request and there's 36 hours notice, but they get a showing request for 7:45 p.m. Are they going to be very motivated to say, yeah, come on in while I nurse my newborn and bathe them and put them to sleep?
Right.
No problem.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. But we've been through all the scenarios, and you can sell a home in pretty well any positioning, any condition, any scenario. But it's just a matter of at what price.
Well, that's right. It's the nicest homes that are priced properly sell the fastest. So If you don't have the nicest home and it doesn't show very well, then price is a key component to that. I helped someone, hopefully firming up on it today. I helped somebody recently conditionally purchase a home, and we saw 4 houses that day. They're all very similar, almost identical homes in the same little complex. And there's one that's vacant and run down, like it was tenanted. Oh, well, I'm assuming. And it's in rough shape. But she would have been able to get it probably for a really attractive price, and it had a ton of potential. But she chose the one that was really well kept. It wasn't like over the top upgraded or anything, but it was spotless and very well cared for. And she paid a premium for it because she didn't want to go with that other house. And that's the mindset of buyers. So if you have a tenanted house, it's going to be a bit run down. It's going to be a bit dirty. It might smell a little bit, and you're going to struggle. But
from a buyer's perspective, though, it also, in the back of their mind, if the home is dirty and it shows that poorly, are there other issues in terms of
Sure. Did they ever change the air filter in the furnace?
Yeah, in terms of maintenance overall, whether you can see the stuff or not, like is there mold in the attic, or, did anybody worry about the rats that were in the backyard last summer? Like there's so many possibilities of things that'll go through buyers' minds. And furnace filter is a great little example. Dishwasher, like how much crap went down the sinks in the bathroom and in the kitchen. Was your tenant pouring bacon grease down the kitchen sink and it's going to, be all clogged up by Christmas time? You know, like those things go through buyers' minds if the home is clean. And, I wanted to talk about this. I'm just going to throw it out there. How important it is to have clean and freshly painted baseboards. I'm telling you, that's going to be my number one tip, period, going forward, because instantly, if you walk into a home and you see dirty baseboards or scuffed baseboards, aren't you kind of unimpressed right away?
Well, I think, like for me, it's light switches.
Oh, yeah.
And
like just the oily,
well, sometimes you'll have, especially
residue
with the paddle shifters on the top, you'll have just a layer of grime.
Yeah.
And my eyes go to that. And then,
you call them paddle shifters?
They're little paddles, yeah. And then all around the handle, the light switch, you get a lot of fingerprints and stuff like that. Like they all may seem like small, minor
or
details,
even
but for a lot of people, they're big.
The little grime around door handles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, and that's why our process and our recommendations, there's a lot of them. And they may seemingly be very small on their own, but as a whole, you never know what triggers a buyer.
Well, I'm saying this to the point of being a landlord and selling your tenanted property, that these little things might not be able to be done.
Yeah.
If the property is tenanted. Yeah. So you have to be mindful of that.
Yeah. But hopefully you've got a cooperative tenant who's relatively tidy and accommodates showings, and
which goes back to interviewing and doing your proper due diligence when getting your home rented to begin with.
Yeah. Oh, you can minimize a lot of that risk by doing a proper interview and qualifying people thoroughly in the beginning, for sure.
You know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start asking tenants to send me a picture of their inside of their car.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if your car is a disaster and messy and dirty and you haven't shampooed the rugs in 20 years or the carpet in 20 years or however 20 years, who the fuck keeps a car 20 years? But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If your car is tidy, your home is probably tidy. If your car is a pigsty and a disaster, we might have some issues in.
Well, that's why I always look up existing houses on Google Street View and see how they're taking care of the house. But all of that is great, and you can minimize a lot of risk by doing that properly. But as soon as money is involved and someone's being uprooted from their home, mindset changes.
100%.
And, it's like a fight or flight type of thing. And they want to protect themselves and take care of their family. And they don't want to be kicked out onto the street, or they don't want to have to increase their monthly rent because they're already stretched as it is.
Yep.
And when money becomes a factor, people change. And I think the key to it is approaching the subject, like you were suggesting earlier, approaching the subject thoughtfully and trying to get the tenant on your side. If you've already got a bad relationship with your tenant, you're done. I'm going to guess, I don't know the exact numbers, it's a guess. Either a quarter or a third of the listings on the market right now are currently tenanted. Wow, that's why it's such an important thing to talk about.
And that's why next week we're going to talk about the other side of the coin.
As a buyer, what to consider.
Oh, there's some great deals out there too. Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. See you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode or listening to this episode of the Real Estate Podcast. If you are considering selling a tenanted property, hopefully you got some good information from this and it helps you with your sale. And drop us a like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on next week's episode where we talk to the buyers.